but let's talk about this, Browns and Chiefs game. Obviously, the Browns are coming off that very, I say, emotional win last week against the Steelers. Absolutely insane game. I think a game that even though it was, a wild card, weekend game, so many incredible moments. 28-0 in the first quarter, but now we're on to this week facing the Chiefs. My first question to you really is, what is the part of the Browns team that you as a Chiefs fan fear the most?
I think it's got to be the running game. I think
Okay.
the Browns seem to have one of the best running games in the NFL right now. I mean, we all know what Kareem Hunt can do, but looking at what Nick Chubb can do as well at the same time, I think they're a dual threat that we've really got to be careful of. I
Okay.
think a lot of teams have kind of, they've kind of not really been aware of that as much because Hunt really has only just kind of started coming into this team. He had flashes every now and again. I think Nick Chubb got hurt, obviously, a little bit. But they've realised now that Kareem Hunt is a good receiver as well. And it's that dual threat that we've got to be careful of, especially, in this game in the playoffs. We've got to be careful of that, I think.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. I would argue, I've actually talked about this, in past episodes. I would argue that the combination of both Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, like I would like to challenge people who are listening to this episode today to find a team in history with a better running back duel on a single team, because I would argue that both running backs are arguably top 10 running backs in the entire league. Because obviously Nick Chubb, I think he's probably top 5 if you ask me. And then
Yeah.
if you're giving Kareem Hunt, the same amount of touches or carries that Nick Chubb is getting, I think he also produces pretty similar numbers to what Nick Chubb did this season. Um, but on to the next thing, when you look at, this Browns team as a whole, there's obviously they're not unstoppable. We're not saying they're unstoppable. Their defense, I think, definitely has some questions. Is there any part of that Browns defense besides Myles Garrett that you think the Chiefs should be worried about?
Not particularly worried about them, no. I mean, I suppose, there's been a lot in the press recently about obviously the Chiefs having a bit of a shaky O-line. So obviously, that's going to be a bit of a concern with the Browns, with their defensive line unit and just seeing how they did against Steelers. They got to Big Ben quite a few times,
Yeah.
and we've got to be wary of that. I mean, obviously Ben Roethlisberger is not as mobile as what Patrick Mahomes is. We
Hmm.
can't obviously compare the two for that. But I mean, I can honestly see the Chiefs wide receiving core just really kind of
Yeah.
really
Hmm.
laying it down on them and making that defense a little bit more honest. Um, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins. Me and Tom have been speaking about this quite regularly. He seems to think that Sammy Watkins is going to have a game
Okay.
against the Browns because the Browns are going to be focused on Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and they seem a little bit preoccupied by them.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
it's it's a chance for playoff Sammy to shine.
I will just add in quickly. I'm not. Don't quote me on this, but I did see a tweet by Nate Taylor, a very well-known Chiefs reporter, that Sammy Watkins was not at practice today in at least the visible portion. But that might be. I might not be 100% correct, but I just want to keep that in mind. And then let's also talk about this Chiefs offense in general, because when you're playing the Chiefs in the playoffs, obviously teams should not go into the game thinking that they can stop this Chiefs offense. It's just too good. It's too potent. There's too many variables. It's just not going to happen. But if you want to beat the Chiefs, you got to be able to contain this offense to the best of your ability. And I think that mindset kind of starts off with can you keep the Chiefs to 30 or under points? Because I think it's pretty reasonable to say that the Chiefs, no matter what defense they're facing, are going to probably score around 30 points. And then for the other team, can you score over that 30 points? So here's my next question: do you believe the Browns' offense can put up over 30 against the Chiefs this Sunday?
I've actually got them. No, I don't think they'll get into the 20s. I think,
Okay.
and that's only because of the run game that they've got. Now, the thing that I think the Chiefs need to do is get a hold of this game early on, and that will nullify this run game from the Browns. Because if the Chiefs get racing into a lead, it's all on Baker Mayfield to really start making the big chunk plays, and start throwing the ball. And I don't think Baker Mayfield can actually do that as efficient as what Mahomes can do. I mean, he's had a good season, but I think he's when it's down on him to do it, I think that's where it's going to struggle. I think he's really kind of relied on their running game quite a bit this year,
Yeah.
and especially the likes of Kareem Hunt. But I think moving forward, I think the Chiefs are just going to be too powerful for this. Even the Chiefs' defense don't really need to turn up as, as strong as we would like them to. But yeah, I think the Browns are going to struggle with it if the Chiefs race off into a big lead.
I could not agree. I could not agree more that I think I literally said this as soon as that Steelers game was over. The key to beating the Browns this season is forcing Baker Mayfield to win you the game. Some people might not agree with that, but that's just my take, and I think you would probably agree with that as well. Because whenever whenever Baker Mayfield tries to become, I say Superman, trying to put it all on his shoulders, I feel like he just crumbles under him because he's just not talented enough. He's not the strongest quarterback, he's not the tallest quarterback, he's not the most accurate quarterback. But if you get him in the right in the right motion, in the right scheme, and things are going well, he can win a lot of games. I'm not saying he can't.
Without a doubt.
And I think my next question to you is, the Chiefs. I think the biggest thing for the Chiefs, the Chiefs they obviously had the bye, but even in that Week 17 game against the Chargers, they hardly played any of their starters. So if we're technically speaking, that week they basically had a bye. And then obviously they have the bye just this past week, and then they have the whole practice week leading up to the game on Sunday. So if you're talking technically, they've had about 3 weeks off of playing some serious football. So are you in any way worried about the Chiefs coming out rusty this Sunday?
I think we've seen them quite rusty anyway towards the back end of this last season, which was obviously cause for concern. There was quite a few drop passes and things, and kind of like miscommunication going on, which I think this 3 weeks or two or 3 weeks that they've had off is actually going to help them improve on that. And obviously they'll be on the practice field just making sure that they've got everything ticking over right, and they're getting the routes sorted and the timings right. I think this is going to help them more. I think they just needed that. It almost looked like they needed that respite just to take stock of what was going on, because it was starting to look a little bit shaky towards the end of that last season. But yeah, moving forward, I mean, playoff Mahomes is just going to be on it. I think this team has the players. They have these. I mean, the likes of Frank Clark. I think he'll show up in the playoffs again. Matthew as well. Tyrann Mathieu will shine again. It's the big games bring out the best players. The big game players, aren't they? And I just think we've got so many stars on this team.
Right.
They are all going to kind of link up, and yeah, it's just going to be too much, I think, for the Browns.
How's it going, guys? And thank you so much for reaching into this video. If you're interested in more content, be sure to go subscribe, turn on push notifications, all that good stuff. Also, I'll leave links to my Instagram and Twitter up here above. And also, be sure to go follow the podcast. That is where the bulk of my content comes from. I upload to all the major podcast providers, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. I upload to it all. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.